this Part 4 video, we're already in Hurricane, Utah, and we'll also be going over to Page, Arizona. While in Utah, we visited the Cedar Breaks National Monument and the KOLOB Canyon portion of Zion National Park. Cedar Breaks is 61 miles north of Hurricane and sits at a 10,000 foot elevation and only about 6,000 acres in size, but it'll give you a very good preview as to what Bryce Canyon National Park is like. The rim drive may only be 4 miles long, but it's no way less spectacular. From there, we traveled over to Glen National Recreation Area near Page, Arizona, hiked the Toadstool Trailhead in the Escalante National Monument, and also visited the famous Horseshoe Bend in Page. Well, we're all checked into the campground now, so we can have a little bit of look around. A little bit different than where we were the night before over in Death Valley. They actually have trees. In fact, I had to trim some of those tree limbs because they were hanging down on the top of the coach. So we get settled in, and the next day we head off to Cedar Breaks National Monument. Like I said, it's about 60 miles up the road, and we left at it was probably be in the high 80s, but as we start climbing up in elevation, I didn't realize it was going to be up around 10,000 feet, and we started seeing snow, and it looks like there may have been a forest fire sometime in the past because all the trees were kind of burnt out. And I guess this is like a ski resort, this town of Bryan, or Bryan said. Of course, not seeing snow for a year or two, we had to get out and play in it a little bit. My feeble attempt of trying to build a miniature snowman. And here's the Cedar Breaks area. It gives you a good preview of what Bryce Canyon would look like when you go there. It was a little breezy up there, and of course with the cooler temperatures that I could have maybe used a long sleeve shirt at least. There you can even see patches of snow in the side of the ridges. It's not a very big place. You can drive through it in less than half an hour, but it's a real scenic and pretty drive. On the way back to Hurricane, we had to go up and down Route 15, and we bypassed or went by KOLOB Canyons. And we had been here before on our previous trip out to Utah, and it's not a very long drive in, and it's hardly crowded at all. It is part of Zion National Park. Took a little side trail down to try and take some other photos. There I'm pondering the magnificent view. So we head off to Glen Canyon in Page, Arizona, in the Waweep campground following day. And we had stayed here 2 years ago on our other trip out to Utah. It's a pretty campground right on Lake Powell, and we could notice a substantial difference in the level of the lake. That's back in 2 years ago on the right, and then on the left you can see how much the water has dropped down. We had passed this Toadstool's Trailhead on the way into Page, so it was about a 30-mile drive back to it, and we decided to go back and take the little hike in. I think it goes in 8/10 of a mile. You're basically walking in what appears to be a storm wash. But that is the trail in. It's a fairly level hike in, just kind of sandy soil you're walking on. Lots of prickly little things growing. This is one little obstacle we had to kind of hike around. We went to the right past that little post and down this narrow ridge. And it was kind of breezy. I was a little nervous walking down this ridge, but we made it up and down okay. And there's the toadstools. One of them anyway. There's the little ones. We did see some people climbing up on the rocks to the left, sitting up on top of it. I guess these smaller ones are very similar to what they have in the Goblins Park. There's a valley completely full of these that you can walk around, and we haven't been there yet. That's on one of my future trips. Denise trying to take a selfie. And her selfie. So we kind of wandered around this top level up here for about a half hour or so, taking pictures, and hiked our way back out. have to get off the main road and do some of these little short hikes. Obviously they got hikes you can take for 4 or 5 miles, but something, you know, half mile to a mile in and back isn't too bad. And amazing what you can see along these little side adventures. And here's one happy hiker to make it back to where we parked. Toadstool Trailhead, part of the Grand Staircase Escalante area. We stopped by the visitor center on the way back, and that particular day it was closed, so we could just take pictures outside. But we come back the following day and went inside. There's Lake Powell again. See the dam in the background and how low the water level is. So we went in the page and stopped by this Grand Canyon Brewing and Distillery and had a real nice meal in there. They had a beast burger if you wanted one. All the souvenirs that you could buy. That's the marina at Lake Powell near the campground. Those are all the houseboats. The following day we headed out to go back to the Escalante Visitor Center, and I remembered seeing this very nondescript sign alongside the road, pronounced, I believe it's Amangiri, and you can look up their website. It's just Aman, and it's a extremely over-the-top resort with locations all over the world that caters to clients that are definitely not part of my social circle. Rates at this location range from $4,000 to over $12,000 per night, and I noticed the days that had the $12,000 rate had a 2-day minimum. So if any of you go visitors, please send me a postcard from it. I'd like to see what it looks like. So I noticed this road right by the sign, and it didn't appear to be anybody's driveway, so I thought, wow, what the heck, let's go see how far we can get. And we drove in until we come to this gate, and it was a closed gate, and then I had to look off to the right-hand side there and saw that there was a bunch of security cameras and looked like a satellite dish, something broadcast back somewhere. So I thought, yeah, maybe somebody's watching us out here. And it was the end of a cul-de-sac, and I walked over, looked at the sign, and seen it was a helicopter landing area. So I thought, well, obviously they didn't want us in there, so we left for the day. Then we stopped at the Grand Staircase Escalante Visitor Center and learned about all the dinosaurs that used to frequent this area. Which is quite surprising when you see you're out in the middle of the desert. So as we were leaving this place, I spotted another sign that we didn't know what it was. And I went out and I took the back side of it. That's the visitor center behind it, but under canvas. And it was a dirt road, and a car had gone by us while we were there, so we thought, well, we'll drive in. And what we found out is it's a campground consisting of upscale tents that they currently have in 10 safari-inspired locations around the United States. And in my opinion, range from quite pricey to outrageous. Prices range from $200 to $600 a night. But they were very cordial and agreed to take us around and showed us some of the tent sites, I guess. This was a common area that people could gather in, and there's one of the tents, almost identical to what we had seen in Frontenac Springs in Florida at the campground Twin Lakes that we stayed at the first night we started out on the trip. And they had they had 7 of these type of tents that you could rent there. We leave the under canvas campground and head back to ours, and then along the way I stopped by this other entrance point to the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area called Lone Rock, and this area where people can go and do dry camping and that. And it shows you how low the water level has dropped, and that is Lone Rock over the hood of the truck there, and it was completely surrounded with water, and now you can literally walk over to and walk around it. You can see how high the water level used to be on it. So we actually checked that out for a little bit, drove down close to it, and come back. I didn't want to get stuck down there because it was quite soft sand in spots. And this is the private marina at Lake Powell. Those are all private houseboats. And that's actually had to be relocated as well because of the low water level. And we stopped over to the Carl Hayden Visitor Center, and that's the dam for Lake Powell. And that arch bridge behind it is the bridge you cross over to get to the city of Page. So we call it a day and head back to camp and kind of settle in and relax for the evening. And the following day we take a ride over and visited the famous Horseshoe Bend in Page. So that concludes our part 4. If you enjoyed this, want to see the rest of the trip, I'll be publishing part 5 soon, and that'll cover our final trip home.